engagement like that is going to bring some positiveness up. You have an opportunity. There's prizes that are going to be there. It's Saturday at 3:00 Eastern Standard Time. I know it's late in other countries, but we'll try to get this where it's rolling different hours down the road when we get other people that can help work with us, because chess is a global game. It's a cult, not a game.
You know, there are 600 million people playing chess in the world. 600 million.
600 million. That's what I understand about 600
million.
Yeah,
it's impressive number.
Yeah.
But think about it. It's all genders, religion, nationalities, countries. I mean, everybody is addicted playing chess.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally addicted. When the internet bleeped out, I went and played a couple games till it came back on. So,
Riddhi has ever played on internet.
Oh, Riddhi has joined us. Riddhi, where are you from?
Hi, I'm sitting in Delhi right now from India.
You're in New Delhi?
Uh-huh.
Oh, did you know Ankit's from New Delhi? He's your neighbor. Yeah, he has 1.3 billion Facebook followers.
I know, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to believe that. So what are you doing in New Delhi? What do you do?
Surviving COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the rest of us. Actually, as Dr. Shruti was saying earlier, before I came on and I was backstage, I was deep breathing. So I was following her suggestions like a good student.
Okay.
So these days, actually, we're leading and organizing something called the National Task Force. Sounds like a cool name, but actually the goal is to contain COVID in India by doing whatever it takes. So at this point, it's about 1,000 volunteers. But what's most important is that we've been able to partner with a lot of different organizations. To give you an example, so we partner with industry bodies, for example, FICCI, CII, EO. These are the largest industry bodies in India. Then we also partner with the startups and the VC ecosystem. So 100 plus startups, major startups in India, and then 50 plus VC partners in India in a never before seen kind of collaboration. So for example, one of them is called Action Fund, and they are funding all COVID related innovation in India. And they're also not taking equity, so they're giving grants. So now with these partners, we also support and augment our state and district war rooms pan India. What that means is that at this point, everyone is so overworked that all of our government war rooms need as much support as we can give to them. And the way we support them is we can either help fund the war room, so we can provide funding, we can provide information, we can provide data, we can provide technology solutions from the entire startup community in India and the appropriate ones to the government. We can also provide data crowdsourced bottoms up. We also have as advisors the heads of medical associations pan-India. We also have infectious diseases experts, pandemic response protocol experts. And the reason that's important is because, if you build a technology solution without checking with the experts and without understanding what's needed in the government war rooms first, then you end up in a funny situation where you're trying to build first and sell later. Whereas I think what's most important is we understand first, we listen first, and then we build accordingly. So that's just the brief.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, well, thankfully a lot of volunteers are helping, and I think I've been so amazed at the generosity of everyone. Like there are volunteers working 20-hour days for free, just to be able to, because even the coordination effort is so large and so intense. For example, mental health, is a track.
Yes.
Testing is a track. Supply chain is a track. I've learned more about supply chain issues in the last 30 days than I had in my entire life. And
supply chain. Did you guys run out of toilet paper like we have here in the United States?
Supply chain. Interesting, right? I love how Indian people are joking around saying, "Oh, we've taught the world namaste," and the world might be joking, "We've taught India more hygiene." So I don't know. I think it's better we all keep laughing.
Well, I'm about to run out of supply here. So it's becoming a little personal. You know, we go to Costco all the time, and they go, "Well, we're completely out."
And do you
So,
have a video flashback of Nick bringing us the supply he showed us? Remember that when he came up? And he could barely carry it.
Yeah, I can't. That supply is running out very rapidly here, and so I'm learning about supply chain. Come on, when does this stuff?
I think Indian people are going to be very happy that they use water.
Yeah, probably a good idea. You got to use something else.
Let's go to the dollar store online.
Is Lynn here? Oh, is it available? Hey, speaking of which, I just found out that the prices, I can fly to India for less than $1,000 round trip now. So I can go out and visit, I can go visit Ankit. Am I allowed in, or do you guys?
No.
Do you guys have a wall around India that don't allow us in, or what's the deal?
No.
Pat not allowed
in. No.
But the thing is, I get my ticket
it's
right.
It's a protective shield. It's a force field.
Can you also come?
I can get my ticket online.
You cannot fly to India right now.
It says I can. I can buy a ticket right now. All I have to do is press a button. Some of my flights are free. I have a lot of frequent flyer miles. So I just
you can't.
We're going to beat you up.
You can't even send a letter to India.
Really?
You can't even send a letter. I just tried to send a letter to my mother, and because she doesn't like email, so I write her letters, and they wouldn't let. There's no service to India.
Really? Wow. But you're in Hong Kong, aren't you, Rakesh?
Yes, I was trying to write a letter to my mother who's in India.
Oh, really? Okay.
And she doesn't like emails.
No postage allowed in India?
No postage into India.
Yeah. Is Hong Kong real?
Yeah, we're on national lockdown.
Okay.
It's a national lockdown.
Okay.
What about inside the country now? Are y'all
inside the country as well? We're on a national lockdown. It was a 21-day lockdown, and now it's been extended as well because India is entering community spread, and only essential movement of medicines, of groceries is allowed. And in fact, even that was sort of allowed in a slightly more decentralized fashion till a couple of days ago. And now even that is becoming more centralized, where in a couple hotspots, and there are more than a couple, the central and the state governments are saying that we are going to ensure delivery. There are some companies like Swiggy, like Delivery. So the movement, the logistics companies, a few of them, the largest ones pan India, and then one of the largest food delivery companies, and obviously Amazon. So there are very few of them which are allowed to operate. There are very strict curfew passes which are being issued on a per state level. And so the movement is very, very restricted, and that's for good reason. I mean, we're going to see a much larger explosion of cases as well, because now that when the lockdown happened, there was a lot of migration from the cities back to the rural areas. And because India, we all live with our parents, or most of us, and we are more, there is a larger feeling of community as people live with each other, and especially more so in the rural areas. So, and also access to healthcare in rural areas is much smaller. Testing is only picking up in the urban areas right now. So there's a bunch of reasons why it's a good thing the lockdown is continuing, because the number of cases are going to increase.
Are you telling me that 1.3 billion people are staying at home in India?
I am telling you that all of our parents have learned Zoom, and this is beautiful because this is the best excuse to teach our parents Zoom and video conferencing. Right. And it's so funny that, we used to talk about Digital India. We used to talk about Make in India and Skill India and Swachh Bharat, which was Clean India. It's funny. We all staying at home. Our waters are cleaner. Our air is cleaner.
I know the air is cleaner. I've seen pictures of the Himalayas from India now. They're circulating all over here. They go, the Indians go, wow, there's the Himalayas. We can actually see it. We haven't seen it in years. And then they go, oh, the sky is blue. I didn't think it was blue. I thought it was gray and brown. I mean, so the thing is, we're getting some pictures from India. They're really, really great and fantastic. And
we can see the rivers again now.
And the longer they stay, they're so bored. What are we going to do? Let's go watch IBM TV because we have nothing better to do. So our our ratings pick up, and we don't have to do anything, which is pretty cool. So it's really changed the dynamics of what's going on around the world. But you know what I really like about it, and I told Ankit a long time ago, you guys are nice enough to speak English over there. You know, some of the other countries we're in, I go, man, I'm having a hard time with that language. You know.
So, Riddhi, would you like to share about what you have done on Covidindiaorg and what
Sure,
are you trying to achieve?
So,
Wow.
yes, thank you, Ankit. So the website was started as Covidindiaorg, and the goal for the website actually was to be able to take government information, which the government was putting out on various portals in various states, and then be able to present it in a very consumable fashion to the rest of to Indian citizens. At the same time, because the larger effort of the National Task Force, and that website is covidindiataskforce.org. So the larger effort of the task force is to contain COVID, doing whatever it takes. So I'll talk about 2 or 3 initiatives in particular. One of them is a pan-India personal protective equipment demand and supply initiative. The reason that's important is Italy spiraled out of control when the doctors started falling sick. Now, because in India as well, elective surgeries have been cancelled, put on hold for the hospitals to make space for COVID. The challenge is that for hospital owners, their revenues are down by up to 70 to 80%. But unlike hotels, they can't shut them down, right? Hospitals still need to operate. So we have to protect our doctors and healthcare workers with PPEs first and foremost, because we're already seeing reports of healthcare workers falling sick, and this is a dire situation. So there's a pan-India team we have, which on a per state basis takes demand from either hospitals directly or from the state governments. Now, the state governments, because health is a state subject in India, so the state governments are often coordinating with the government hospitals, which bear the brunt of COVID cases first. And of course, the private hospitals are now ramping up and gearing up, and now they're taking a lot of COVID cases as well. Because we get the demand, we've mapped out the supply of manufacturers pan India. We've verified, we've vetted how much they can deliver on a daily basis, what their production capacity is. And with that, then we often work with logistics companies. So on a national level, we'll work with delivery. On an international level, sometimes we have to import from China. So we work with international freight forwarders to be able to do the import from China. After that, we also have to.
Wait. Can you scroll back down? So how many tests is that? Number of tests, 244,000. So about 250,000 already. Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
we
sorry.
need a lot more.
Sorry, I didn't mean to lose your track there, but I kind of wanted to take a look at some of this, because you've got a pretty good success rate right now. You've got a very low death rate, very low confirmed rate compared to the U.S., compared to other countries. You've really, and these are real numbers. These are real numbers from the government.
These are government verified numbers. I think while I would love to be optimistic, I'm still going to be a bit somber, because I think for all countries, the US included, it was easy to say that we've contained it until it went out of control. And that we've seen in every country repeatedly. And so knowing the on-the-ground situation over here, while Indian government has done a fantastic job from a macro perspective, we were one of the first to initiate a national lockdown in terms of how complete it was, how thorough it was, how comprehensive it was. We were also one of the first to implement very comprehensive travel bans into and out of the country. While that's happening, I think the reason I'm still somber is because those were still easy to implement as solutions. And as we've seen in the US, every single time a lockdown goes on, what starts becoming the issue is deaths because of corona, or overall unemployment and economy loss because of the economic loss and unemployment. And just the way we've seen US numbers skyrocket, we are seeing Indian numbers skyrocket as well. Indian industries are struggling, as you can imagine, to cope with a lockdown of this magnitude. And that's across the board. Our manufacturers are struggling because, in addition to supply chain issues, I think everyone is becoming an expert at supply chain. Because, for instance, even if a manufacturer wants to manufacture sanitizers, which are exempted as well from the lockdown, and because now we need sanitizers in all hospitals, even for something like that, let's say if the nozzle comes from another state, and there's one aspect of the entire sanitizer bottle which is not exempted. So again, this is a time issue as well, where we're all fighting against time. The other reason is, migrant, all of the factory laborers have sort of migrated back to rural India. So let's just say that, because in general, it's not like we have information on every citizen in real time with the government, right? That's not the case. So for a lot of countries, Singapore has done a very, very good job, but they also have much fewer people. Even Delhi or Mumbai independently has a lot more people from a population perspective. And so we're dealing with a mini Europe here in some sense. And that is why it's important to continue to realize that it's a long way to go. We are still to ramp up testing in India from a population ratio perspective. And that is why these numbers will increase a lot.
Where is India getting their test kits from when they do get them?
The answer to that question is actually a lot more complicated.
Okay.
So
no, I'm just curious because that's our big question here. And, we have rapid test kits that just don't test everything. And then we have the real test kits, supposedly, that take 10 days to get results from. So it's a huge question that I would love to grasp an understanding of, because it was part of one of the big addresses to the nation the other day. Abbott, who is I guess, one of the bigger companies that produces these test kits, claims that they can run about 100,000 tests at one time.
Yes.
But if you're having to ship the samples in and then get them back, it just takes too long. We need to get this centralized. We need to have tests. To me, there should be a lab set up at every university right now. Every university, because your universities do have labs that are equipped for PPE equipment, or should be. But your universities are as close to a community for each place that you can get that have professional equipment to be able to do this. So I'm not understanding why we're not utilizing that as a resource right now.
So the reason for that in particular is India has the equivalent of the US CLIA, which is NABL here, which is a certification that labs need. And currently universities are often at a BSL2 certification. And so there is currently not been an exception for the NABL certification. There are groups advocating for that, who are testing experts, and hopefully, for whoever is watching, there will be movement on that. Once that an exemption is created, we will also be able to include our universities. At the same time, from a testing kit perspective, there are issues again in the supply chain, because so we're all waiting for Abbott to be able to launch in India. I do know that there is a lot of different industry groups, FICCI in particular, all the major industry groups are talking quite closely with Abbott to be able to ensure or support them in as they come to India. Importing those kits has been an issue as well, because the kits usually, even globally, end up going to the countries which need it the most, which actually means every country is ending up in a reactive situation. So currently, globally, a lot of export is being done to the US, right, as opposed to India, because ultimately the numbers are limited even globally. And the US is in a more dire state today. So I think that's also a factor. Also on the testing kit side, so there are some components which we are yet to ramp up domestic manufacturing for. And as you can imagine, because this is complex, it will take some time. There are also some components like primers, etc. Even for these tests to be able to, we can manufacture them domestically. It's just it's a time crunch situation, and everyone's trying to figure out how to ramp up manufacturing domestically as soon as they can. But it'll take some time.
I think there are a couple of companies who are manufacturing test kits in India. One of them is MyLab. And
so
they
MyLab is
are
actually action funded, and even for MyLabs, while they have a lot of support in terms of funding, in terms of media, in terms of contacts, again, it's important to realize there are simply components of the supply chain, which even for a company which gets all of the support, funding, visibility, etc., are just going to be hard to scale up and ramp up. So it's not that we don't have companies working on it very actively. It's just going to take time.
I mean,
and
yeah.
also, I mean, in the startup arena, do you find people or startups working for COVID solutions maybe in future? Not at this point of time, because right now, as you know, that there's a little chaos going on and people are not aware what to do at what time and when is the normalcy comes in, and there are a lot of questions need to answer every day. That's what we do on IBM as well. So, so what kind of mindset the startup fraternity have at this point of time, and what are the new innovations coming up? Do you have any idea about
Yes.
what's going on?
So I can talk about a few examples from post-COVID scenario and for the future. As we know, we used to all talk about future of work, but it's happened, and the future of work has happened because of COVID becoming a forcing function. So, for example, all startups in digital ed tech, now is the time where they actually get distribution. Even industries like real estate are now having to learn how to sell homes online, right? Industries in fintech like digital signatures, now is the time, because until today they would get distribution within the progressive people or the tech savvy people. Today is the time when all existing traditional businesses who might not have ever had the need to become tech friendly have to learn how to do digital signatures. Now, again, for example, every single company which used to provide technology to traditional industries like manufacturing or data or government, selling to the government, selling to every single traditional industry has become easier actually, because this is no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have. And so there is a lot of inbound demand as well. I think in general collaboration has gone up across the board, and so what people are realizing is that multiple solutions can come together and fit in, because ultimately overall revenue matters more, versus everybody kind of, oh, I will build my own company, you build yours. That's something we've seen as well. In general, all kinds of entrepreneurship has only increased because of this aspect as well. And then the future of remote work has increased for sure, because of the lockdown, all companies have had to figure out how to have, let's say, 5,000 people be productive while everybody is at home. So, in general, within companies, documentation, structure, processes, the discipline of working from home and not taking a vacation that day, all of it overall has increased. And so that is going to, overall what people are realizing. So I was hearing this, even organizations like FICCI and CII, who do so many massive conferences where money gets spent, everybody is continuing conferences visually and on video,
So
which means,
the next question is that so what I would like to ask, and all the startup community who are watching the show, that if they want to start something during the COVID thing or maybe post COVID, how they should plan their seed funding, and how they should plan their VCs, because you are one of the VCs. I mean, you are investing from past 7 years, and also what are your plans post COVID? Where are you investing your dollars?
got it.
So yeah, what are the focuses on venture capital right now, and what inspires you to invest in a company?
Of course. So, with respect to the focuses for venture capital, while specifically right now, from a COVID perspective, the tracks are testing, stage 3, healthcare infrastructure, ventilators, mental health, contact tracing, dashboards for the government, drones, delivery logistics, anything and everything to do with. I think the way VC has always worked is there will always be funding for entrepreneurs who identify the real problems. And so, something like COVID, this is a great opportunity because there are problems everywhere. In fact, that's how VCs evaluate as well, right? Are you someone who's passionate, who's figured out a problem? And this is the time where problems are everywhere. It doesn't take a genius to identify problems right now. if we can figure out people who can see those problems as opportunities instead, they will get funding. If anything, there is more funding being unlocked for COVID related stuff, which will also continue into and translate into funding post COVID. Healthcare in general, digital healthcare, telemed, tele ICU, tele everything, tele consultations. Until today, until COVID, even doctors used to be very careful before simply prescribing on the phone. They used to ask you to come visit physically because there are legal liability implications as well. All of telemedicine is taking a massive jump, and because of that massive jump, all of healthcare, in fact, for example, when we try to reuse the polio delivery supply chain to be able to figure out, so it's not that India hasn't done a great job in rural healthcare. The ASHA workers, the Anganwadi workers, the postal office system in the rural thing, the banking correspondence. There are so many existing systems in place. What we're realizing is that they're being able to be more utilized for additional purposes as well. And so same thing for a VC. As a VC, I would tell someone, find a problem, solve it, the money is there. While fundraising globally might have paused for efforts in general, again, one of the major efforts post COVID is that if you understand, people with chronic care issues, cancer, diabetes, as we're seeing